In the Italian mafia, there are three sacred rules. Never betray the family, always honor your debts, and never, ever forget a face. Antonio Greco broke the third rule. For 6 years, he searched for a ghost, a woman who saved his life during the bloodiest night of the New York Territory Wars. He left her his father's signet ring, a promise that the Greco family always repays its debts. But when his men found the ring, they found the wrong woman. And that mistake, it was about to cost him everything. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Tell me, where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments below. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We bring you powerful emotional stories filled with danger, betrayal, and the razor-thin line between enemy and ally. This is a story about three things: a birthmark, a lie, and 6 years of stolen time. It begins with Antonio Greco, one of the most dangerous men in New York, walking into a diner in Queens. It ends with blood, truth, and a family forged in fire. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the beginning, or rather 6 years before the beginning. December 18th, 6 years ago. The Starlight Casino, Manhattan. Antonio Greco, then 28 and newly appointed Don of the Greco family, arrived for what should have been a routine collection. The Rossi family, controlling interests on the East Side, owed protection money. Simple transaction. Except it wasn't. The wine was drugged, the meeting was a trap, and within 5 minutes of Antonio taking his first sip, 15 Rossi soldiers opened fire. The shooting lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, 4 of Antonio's guards were dead, and Antonio himself was bleeding from 3 bullet wounds, stumbling through the casino's service corridors, the poison making his vision blur and his legs give out. He should have died there. Would have if not for Claire Dawson. Claire was 23, working the casino's VIP lounge to pay off her late mother's medical debt. She had $47 in her bank account, an eviction notice in her purse, and absolutely no reason to risk her life for a stranger. But when she heard the gunshots and found Antonio collapsed against a supply rack, hemorrhaging blood, something inside her couldn't walk away. For the next 3 hours, Claire hid Antonio in a laundry truck, used her scarf as a tourniquet, and sang every song she knew to keep him conscious. Antonio would later remember fragments, her voice, soft and steady, the smell of coffee and vanilla on her skin, the way her hands trembled but never stopped working, and her words, repeated like a prayer, "Don't you dare die on me! Don't you dare!" Before he finally lost consciousness, Antonio did something instinctive. He pulled his father's ring from his finger, a platinum band engraved with the Greco family crest, priceless both in value and sentiment, and pressed it into Claire's palm. "Keep this," he whispered. "Greco family always repays debts." Claire took the ring. She also took something else that night, though neither of them knew it yet. She was pregnant with Antonio's child. 3 weeks later, Claire discovered she was pregnant. Terrified, broke, and traumatized by the violence she'd witnessed, she made a decision. She would keep the baby, but she would never contact Antonio Greco. Men like that, powerful, dangerous, connected to organized crime, they didn't raise children. They took them. And Claire would rather die than lose her child. She called her older sister Isabel the only family she had left. Isabel arrived that night and Claire told her everything. The shooting, the stranger, the pregnancy, the ring. She even showed Isabel the ring, this beautiful, heavy piece of platinum that was probably worth thousands. "You should pawn it," Isabel said. "Start over somewhere safe. I'll help you." Claire, exhausted and scared, agreed. She handed her sister the ring and $200, everything she had, and asked Isabel to handle the transaction while she slept. Isabel went to the pawn shop, all right. But she never sold the ring. Because while she was standing at the counter, 2 men in expensive suits walked in, showed a photo, and asked, "Have you seen this ring?" They were Antonio's men, searching for the woman who saved their boss. Isabel made a choice in that moment, a choice that would cost Claire 6 years of her life. "I'm the one you're looking for," Isabel said. "I saved Antonio Greco." 6 years passed, Isabel lived in a luxury apartment in Manhattan, received a monthly stipend of $50,000, and enjoyed the protection of the most powerful crime family in New York. Her son, Danny, from a previous abusive relationship, grew up with private tutors and designer clothes. Isabel even went so far as to have a tattoo artist scar a fake birthmark onto Danny's skin, a crude imitation of the Greco family mark, just in case Antonio ever started asking questions about heirs. Meanwhile, Claire worked three jobs: morning shifts at Rosie's Diner, afternoon cleaning houses, and evening shifts at a call center. She lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens, wore secondhand clothes, and counted pennies. But she had Sophia. Beautiful, brilliant 6-year-old Sophia, with her father's dark eyes and the unmistakable Greco birthmark on her shoulder. Claire kept that mark hidden like a secret that could kill them both. And Antonio. Antonio searched. For 6 years he met with Isabel monthly, hoping the sight of her would trigger his lost memories. It never did. Something was always wrong. The scent, the voice, the way she held herself. But the evidence was there. Isabel had the ring, knew details about that night, and seemed genuinely grateful for his protection. Antonio told himself his doubts were just paranoia, side effects of the drugs and head trauma. Until the day he walked into Rosie's Diner and saw the truth written on a 6-year-old girl's skin. Antonio didn't plan to go to Queens that day. He'd spent the morning in meetings with his captains, the afternoon resolving a territory dispute, and by 2 o'clock he just wanted coffee. Real coffee. Not the pretentious espresso his chef prepared, but the strong, bitter kind that reminded him of his father. His driver suggested Rosie's Diner. "Good reviews, boss. My cousin eats there." Antonio shrugged. "Fine, Rosie's it is." They arrived at 2:47. Antonio walked in, his bodyguard close behind, and immediately scanned the room, an old habit from years of watching his back. The diner was small, worn, authentic. Exactly what he wanted. Then he saw Claire. She was refilling coffee cups at the counter, her face tired but kind, her movements efficient from years of practice. There was something about her, something familiar, but Antonio couldn't place it. He'd seen thousands of faces in his life. Why did this waitress make his chest tighten? He didn't have time to analyze it because at that exact moment, Sophia decided to spin in circles near the booth where she was doing homework. Her backpack caught on a chair, papers scattered, and she went stumbling backward, directly into Antonio's path. The collision was inevitable. Sophia crashed into his legs. Her juice cup, gripped in one small hand, exploded across his suit jacket. Apple juice everywhere. Time slowed down. Sophia looked up, expecting anger. Adults usually got angry when kids made messes. But this man, tall, dark-suited, intimidating as a storm cloud, he just stared at her. And Sophia felt something she'd never felt before. Recognition. "You have sad eyes," Sophia said, her 6-year-old honesty cutting through all social pretense. "Like you lost something important." Antonio actually took a step back. No one spoke to him like that. But this child, this tiny girl with apple juice dripping from her fingers, looked at him like she could see straight through to his soul. "Sophia!" Claire's voice cut through the moment. She rushed over, horrified, already reaching for napkins. "I'm so sorry, sir. She didn't mean—" "Let me clean. I'll pay for dry cleaning." "It's fine," Antonio said, his voice strange even to his own ears. He couldn't stop staring at the child. Those eyes. Those dark, knowing eyes that looked exactly like the ones he saw in the mirror every morning. Claire began dabbing at his jacket, apologizing in a rush of words. Sophia, trying to help, reached up to take the napkins from her mother's hand. That's when it happened. Sophia's sweater sleeve rolled back, exposing her shoulder. And Antonio saw the birthmark. For a moment, Antonio forgot how to breathe. The world narrowed to that single mark on Sophia's skin. Flower-shaped, the petals arranged in a perfect spiral, the exact shade of wine dark red that had marked Greco blood for 13 generations. It wasn't possible. The mark couldn't be faked. It was a genetic trait, as unique as DNA. Antonio's father had it. His grandfather had it. His great-grandmother's portrait in the family estate showed it clearly on her wrist. Only Grecos carried this mark. Only Grecos. Where did she get that mark? Antonio's voice came out cold, controlled, the voice he used when he was 3 seconds from doing violence. Claire's hand froze mid-wipe. She followed Antonio's gaze to Sophia's exposed shoulder, and her face went white. In one swift movement, she pulled Sophia's sleeve down, her body shifting into a protective stance between her daughter and this dangerous stranger. "It's a birthmark," Claire said, her voice shaking but firm. "Just a birthmark. They're common." "That mark," Antonio said slowly, "is not common." They stared at each other. Claire saw a man who could take everything from her. Antonio saw a woman who was hiding something, and between them Sophia looked confused, sensing the sudden tension but not understanding its source. "Sophia, baby, go pack up your homework," Claire said softly. "We need to go home now." Sophia hesitated, looking between her mother and the sad-eyed man, but she obeyed. As soon as Sophia was out of earshot, Antonio leaned in close. "I don't know what game you're playing," he said quietly, "but that mark is a Greco family birthmark. The only way your daughter has it is if she's Greco blood. So I'm going to ask you one time, and I suggest you answer honestly. Who is that child's father?" Claire's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. "I think you need to leave, now." Antonio pulled a business card from his pocket and placed it on the counter. "Tomorrow, noon. You're going to call this number and we're going to talk. If you don't, I'll find you anyway. And I'm not nearly as polite when I have to go looking for answers." He turned to leave, then paused. "What's your name?" Claire swallowed hard. "Claire. Claire Dawson." The surname hit Antonio like a physical blow. Dawson. Isabel Dawson. Could it be? "You have a sister named Isabel?" Claire's expression answered before her words did. "What did she do?" Claire whispered. Antonio didn't answer. He just walked out of the diner, his mind racing, his world tilting on its axis. Behind him, Claire collapsed onto a stool, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold herself up. Sophia emerged from the booth, backpack on, ready to go home. "Mama, why are you crying? That man didn't seem mean and just sad, like he needed a hug." "Baby," Claire said, pulling her daughter close. "Remember how I always told you to hide your birthmark? This is why." "Is he my daddy?" Sophia asked, her voice small and hopeful. Claire closed her eyes. "I don't know what he is yet, but he's dangerous, and we might need to run." That night, Antonio sat in his study with a glass of whiskey he wasn't drinking and a phone call he was dreading to make. His consigliere, Marco, stood by the door, waiting for orders. "Find out everything about Claire Dawson," Antonio said finally. "Where she works, where she lives, her financial records, medical history, everything. And, Marco, do it quietly. I don't want Isabel hearing about this." "You think Isabel's been lying to you, boss?" Antonio stared at the family portrait on the wall, his father, his grandfather, all bearing the same birthmark that he'd just seen on a 6-year-old girl in a Queens diner. "I think I've been a fool for 6 years, and if I'm right about what Isabel did, lying is the least of her crimes." By morning, Marco had a file 2 inches thick. Claire Dawson, 29 years old, single mother, no criminal record, worked 3 jobs to support her daughter. Financial records showed she'd never received child support, never taken government assistance, never had more than a few $100s in her account at any time. Medical records showed a pregnancy 6 years ago, delivery complications, no father listed on the birth certificate. But it was the timeline that confirmed Antonio's suspicions. Sophia was born exactly 9 months after the casino shooting. Claire had been working at the Starlight Casino that night, and according to the casino's destroyed security footage, recovered fragments from a backup server, Claire Dawson was the last person seen entering the service corridor where Antonio had been found. It was her, Antonio said, his voice barely above a whisper. All this time, it was her. What do you want to do about Isabel, boss? Antonio's expression went cold. Nothing. Yet. First, I need to talk to Claire. I need to understand why she never came forward, why she hid my daughter from me. Then, he paused, his jaw clenched. Then we'll deal with Isabel's betrayal. At 11:58, Antonio's phone rang. Claire's voice was quiet, resigned. I'm calling like you asked. Meet me at Il Giardino. It's a restaurant on 5th Avenue, 1 o'clock. I can't afford. You're not paying. Come alone. I'll have someone pick up Sophia from school and bring her to my grandmother's house. She'll be safe there. Absolutely not. I'm not letting you take my daughter. Our daughter? Antonio interrupted, his voice hard. That mark doesn't lie, Claire. She's mine. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner we can figure out how to handle this situation like adults instead of me going to court and taking her from you completely. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Claire spoke, her voice breaking. If you take her from me, I will disappear. I will run so far and so fast that you'll never find us. I've spent 6 years protecting her from your world, and I won't stop now. Then meet me, Antonio said quietly, and let's find a solution that doesn't end with you running and me hunting. 1 o'clock. Don't be late. The restaurant was nearly empty when Claire arrived, feeling wildly out of place in her thrift store dress and worn shoes. Antonio sat at a private table in the back, and when he stood to greet her, Claire was struck again by how overwhelming his presence was, all coiled danger and restrained power. Sit, he said, not unkindly. We have a lot to discuss. Claire sat, her purse clutched in her lap like a shield. Before you say anything, I need you to understand something. That night at the casino, you were dying. You were drugged and bleeding, and I couldn't just leave you there. What happened between us, it wasn't planned. It wasn't something I'm proud of. But Sophia is the best thing that ever came from it, and I won't let you make me feel ashamed of her existence. Antonio studied her for a long moment. I don't want you to feel ashamed. I want to understand why you never told me. I left you my father's ring. I gave you a way to contact me. Why hide? Because I knew what would happen, Claire said, her voice rising slightly. You're Antonio Greco. You're the head of a crime family. You kill people, Antonio. You intimidate, you threaten, you control. And I'm a waitress from Queens with a high school diploma and dreams that don't involve my daughter growing up around violence. So, yes, I hid. I hid because I was terrified you'd take her from me, raise her in your world, and turn her into something I wouldn't recognize. And my sister? Antonio's eyes were sharp. Where does Isabel fit into the story? Claire's composure cracked. I told Isabel everything that night. I was scared and alone, and she was the only family I had left. I gave her the ring to pawn so I could start over somewhere safe. I gave her every dollar I had, and she... Claire's voice broke. She betrayed me. She took the ring, took the money, and claimed she was the one who saved you. She's been living off your gratitude for 6 years while I worked myself to exhaustion just to keep Sophia fed. The rage that crossed Antonio's face was terrifying. His hand resting on the table clenched into a fist so tight his knuckles went white. She's been lying to me for 6 years, taking my money, claiming my protection, while you, the woman who actually saved my life, struggled alone with my child. I didn't want your money, Claire said quickly. I just wanted Sophia to be safe, to have a normal life, to never know that her father is... She stopped herself. A monster? Antonio finished quietly. Is that what you think I am? Claire met his eyes. I think you're dangerous. I think you live in a world where people die for crossing you. And I think that's no place for a 6-year-old girl who still believes in fairy tales and happy endings. For a long moment, they sat in silence. Then Antonio did something Claire didn't expect. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a photo. It was old, faded, showing a young boy, maybe 7 or 8, standing between a stern-looking man and a gentle-faced woman. "That's me," Antonio said, "with my parents. My mother died when I was 9. Cancer. My father raised me in the life, as you call it. And you know what I remember most about my childhood? Not the violence, not the fear. I remember my mother reading to me every night. I remember my father teaching me to play chess, to think 3 moves ahead. I remember Sunday dinners with my grandmother where the only rule was that we didn't discuss business. We discussed family." He put the photo away. "I'm not saying my world is safe, it's not. But I'm saying that family, real family, can exist even in dangerous places. And Sophia deserves to know her father. She deserves to know her grandmother, her heritage, where she comes from. You can't protect her from the truth forever, Claire." "I can try," Claire whispered. "Or," Antonio said carefully, "we can try something different. You and Sophia move into my guest house. It's on my property, but separate. You'll have your own space, your own life. Sophia gets to know me, know her family, but you're there every step of the way. No one takes her from you. No one forces anything. We just try. Together?" Claire stared at him. "And if I say no?" "Then I'll see you in court. And I'll win, Claire. I have unlimited resources, the best lawyers money can buy, and a DNA test that proves she's mine. You'll lose, and then you'll have no say in how Sophia is raised. Is that really what you want?" It wasn't a threat. It was a fact, and Claire knew it. "I need time to think," she said finally. "You have 24 hours. After that, I'm filing for custody." That night, Claire picked up Sophia from school and held her daughter so tight Sophia complained she couldn't breathe. "Mama, what's wrong? Did something bad happen?" "Baby, do you remember that man from the diner? The one with sad eyes?" Sophia nodded eagerly. "Is he coming back? I liked him. He seemed lonely." Claire's heart broke a little. "He might be. And if he does, he's going to tell you something important. He's going to tell you that he's your daddy." Sophia's eyes went wide. "Really? My actual daddy? The one with the birthmark like mine?" "Yes, sweetheart. But here's the thing. His world is very different from ours. He's very powerful and very rich and sometimes very dangerous. If we let him into our lives, everything changes. We might have to move. You might have to meet new people. Everything we know might be different." Sophia was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she looked up at her mother with those 2 wise eyes. "Will we still be together? You and me?" "Always," Claire promised. "No matter what happens, you and me. Forever." "Then I don't care about the rest," Sophia said simply. "If he's my daddy, I want to know him. Even if he's dangerous. Even if everything changes. Because maybe he's not lonely anymore if he has us. And maybe we're not lonely anymore if we have him." Out of the mouths of babes, Claire thought. Out of the mouths of babes. The next morning, Claire called Antonio. "We'll try, but I have conditions. Sophia comes first, always. If I think for 1 second that your world is hurting her, we leave and you don't stop us. She stays in her same school. She keeps her same friends. And you tell me the truth about everything, what you do, who you are, what dangers exist. No secrets, no lies, because I've had enough of those to last a lifetime." "Agreed," Antonio said. He sounded relieved. "I'll send a car this afternoon. Pack what you need. My men will move the rest of your things this weekend." "And Isabel?" Claire asked quietly. "What are you going to do about my sister?" Antonio's voice went cold. "What she deserves. But not yet. First, I want Sophia settled. I want you comfortable. Then Then I'll handle Isabel. 3 days later, Claire and Sophia moved into the guest house on Antonio's estate. It was bigger than any place Claire had ever lived. 3 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a yard where Sophia could play. Antonio's main house was 50 yards away, close enough to be present but far enough to give them space. That first night, Antonio came to the guest house at dinner time, holding a pizza box and looking uncertain for the first time since Claire had met him. I thought maybe we could eat together? Get to know each other? Sophia ran to the door before Claire could answer. You brought pizza. Mama, he brought pizza. That's my favorite. I know, Antonio said softly. I did my research. They sat at the small kitchen table, this powerful mafia boss, this exhausted waitress, and the little girl who connected them. Sophia asked a million questions. Do you like chocolate or vanilla? What's your favorite color? Can you do magic tricks? Do you have a dog? Why don't you smile more? Antonio answered each one patiently, and Claire watched something shift in his face. The hardness softened. The distance closed. By the end of dinner, Sophia was showing him her drawings, explaining the elaborate storylines behind each colorful scribble, and Antonio listened like it was the most important briefing he'd ever received. After Sophia went to bed, Antonio and Claire sat on the guest house porch, the night air cool and quiet between them. Thank you, Antonio said finally, for giving me this chance. For not running. I know it wasn't easy. It still isn't, Claire admitted. Every instinct I have says to grab her and disappear. But Sophia was right. Maybe we're all less lonely if we try. She said that. Claire nodded. She's 6 going on 60, that one. Antonio smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. She gets that from you, the wisdom beyond her years. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Antonio spoke again, his voice heavy. I need to tell you what I'm planning to do about Isabel because you deserve to know. Claire tensed. What? I'm going to expose her. Publicly. In front of the family council, in front of my grandmother, in front of everyone who matters in my world. I'm going to show them the DNA results that prove Sophia's my daughter, show them the evidence of Isabel's lies, and then I'm going to let my grandmother decide her punishment. Your grandmother? Claire asked, confused. Rosa Greco. She's the real power in the family. Has been since my grandfather died. If I just killed Isabel or threw her out, there would be questions, doubts, challenges to my authority. But if my grandmother sanctions it, no one will question. And Rosa, she doesn't forgive betrayal, especially betrayal that involves family. Will she kill Isabel? No, Antonio said. Death is too quick. Rosa will strip her of protection, cut her off financially, and make sure everyone in our world knows what she did. Isabel will be marked. Untouchable in the worst way. No one will help her. No one will hire her. She'll lose everything, just like she tried to make you lose everything. Claire absorbed this. Part of her, the part that had struggled alone for 6 years while Isabel lived in luxury, felt satisfied. But another part, the part that remembered loving her sister once, felt sad. She wasn't always like this, Claire said quietly. When we were kids, she was my protector, my best friend. I don't know when that changed. Jealousy changes people, Antonio said. So does desperation. And Isabel was both. Jealous of you and desperate for a life she thought she deserved. That combination makes people do unforgivable things. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. They became a family. Antonio showed up for breakfast most mornings, teaching Sophia Italian words over scrambled eggs. He installed a swing set in the yard and pushed Sophia for hours, her laughter echoing across the estate. He read her bedtime stories in the voice of a man who was remembering how to be gentle. And Claire watched, her heart slowly opening to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this dangerous man could be a good father. Antonio's grandmother Rosa visited on a Sunday. She was small, elegant, with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She took one look at Sophia and burst into tears. Santo cielo, Rosa whispered. She looks exactly like Antonio did at that age. Exactly. She turned to Claire. You're the one who saved my grandson, not that lying witch who's been playing dress-up in my family for 6 years. Claire nodded, uncertain how to respond to this formidable woman. Rosa stepped forward and did something shocking. She hugged Claire. Thank you, she said fiercely. Thank you for saving him. Thank you for raising his daughter alone. Thank you for being strong enough to survive what would have broken most people. You are family now, true family. And I protect my family. Sophia, watching this interaction, piped up, Are you my great-grandma? Rosa turned to the child, her stern face melting into pure love. Say, Piccola, I am. And you, my darling girl, are a Greco through and through. Come here, let me look at you properly. Sophia bounded over, and Rosa examined her face, her hands, and then, gently, the birthmark on her shoulder. Perfetto, Rosa breathed. The mark of our blood. No one can deny you now, child. You are legitimate. You are recognized. You are protected. That evening, after Rosa left, Antonio came to the guest house looking troubled. My grandmother is calling a family council for next week. She wants Isabel brought in to discuss certain matters. It's time, Claire. The truth is coming out. Will I have to be there? Only if you want to be, but yes, I think you should be. You deserve to see justice done. The night of the family council, Claire dressed carefully in the one nice dress Antonio had bought her. She'd protested, but he'd insisted, saying, You're about to be recognized as the mother of my child. You represent the Greco family now. Dress like it. The council room was intimidating. Dark wood paneling, a long table, men in expensive suits watching her with calculating eyes. Antonio sat at the head of the table, his grandmother at his right hand. Claire sat beside her, Sophia safely at home with a trusted bodyguard. Isabel arrived 20 minutes later, looking confused and annoyed. Antonio, what's this about? I was in the middle of... She stopped cold when she saw Claire. The color drained from her face. Hello, Isabel, Claire said quietly. What is she doing here? Isabel demanded, but her voice shook. Sit down, Antonio ordered, his voice like ice. Isabel sat, her hands were trembling. Rosa spoke first, her voice deceptively gentle. Isabel Dawson, for 6 years you have received protection from the Greco family. Monthly payments, security, respect, all because you claim to have saved Antonio's life during the Rossi ambush. Is this correct? Yes, Isabel said carefully. I did save him. Interesting, Rosa continued. Because we've done some investigating, and it seems there was another woman at the casino that night. A waitress named Claire Dawson. Your sister, yes. Isabel's eyes darted to Claire, then back to Rosa. We're estranged. Do not lie to me, girl, Rosa snapped, all gentleness gone. I've had 6 decades to perfect the art of spotting liars, and you reek of deception. The truth. Now. Antonio slid a folder across the table. Security footage recovered from backup servers, time-stamped, showing Claire Dawson entering the service corridor where I was found. Medical records showing her pregnancy 9 months later. And finally, he slid another document. DNA results. Sophia Dawson is my biological daughter, which means the woman who carried my child, who saved my life, who deserves our family's protection, is Claire, not you. The room erupted. Men shouted questions, demands for explanation. But Isabel just stared at the documents, her face crumbling. I needed it, she whispered. The money, the safety, the respect. Do you know what it's like to be invisible your whole life? To watch your little sister get everything, the looks, the brains, the kindness everyone loved? I was tired of being nothing. So when the opportunity came, I took it, and I'd do it again. Claire felt tears sliding down her face. I gave you everything I had that night. Money, the ring, my trust, and you stole my daughter's father from her. You stole 6 years of Sophia knowing where she came from. She's better off not knowing, Isabel spat. Look at this world you're bringing her into. Violence, crime, death. I did her a favor. You did nothing but serve yourself, Rosa said coldly. And now you will pay. As of this moment, you are stripped of all Greco family protection. Your accounts are frozen. Your apartment, which we own, will be vacated by morning. You are persona non grata in our world, and every world connected to ours. You will not work. You will not find shelter. You will not find help from anyone who values their standing with this family. You are cast out, finished. Isabel lunged across the table at Claire, screaming, but Antonio's men grabbed her before she could make contact. This is your fault! Isabel shrieked at Claire. You ruined everything. You always ruin everything. No, Claire said, her voice steady despite her tears. You ruined yourself. All I did was survive what you tried to take from me. They dragged Isabel from the room, her screams echoing down the hallway until the door slammed and there was silence. Rosa turned to Claire, her expression softening. You have shown remarkable grace through this ordeal, my dear. Lesser women would have demanded blood, but you merely wanted truth. That speaks to your character. She stood, and everyone in the room stood with her. I hereby recognize Claire Dawson as the mother of Antonio's legitimate heir, Sophia Greco. She is under our protection. She is family. And anyone who threatens her or the child will answer to me personally. Capiche? A chorus of, yes, Donna Rosa filled the room. That night, Claire and Antonio sat on the porch again, emotionally exhausted. It's over, Claire said. 6 years of secrets, finally over. Not quite, Antonio said. He turned to face her fully. There's one more thing we need to address. Us. Claire's breath caught. Us? These past few weeks watching you with Sophia, talking with you, learning who you are. Claire, I haven't just been getting to know my daughter. I've been falling for the woman who saved my life in more ways than one. And I know it's complicated. I know my world is dangerous. I know you have every reason to keep your distance, but I'm asking, can we try? Not just as Sophia's parents, but as more? Claire looked at this powerful, dangerous man who read bedtime stories in silly voices and pushed swings until his arms were tired. This man who chose truth over pride, who let his grandmother guide his decisions, who was learning to be gentle in a world that demanded hardness. I'm terrified, Claire admitted, of your world, of what could happen, of losing myself in someone else's life again. Then don't lose yourself, Antonio said. Keep your independence, keep your voice. Keep challenging me when I'm wrong. Be my equal, not my subordinate. Be my partner. And let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the second chance you've given me. Claire took his hand, feeling the calluses from violence and the warmth of humanity all at once. Okay, she whispered. Let's try. 6 months later, they stood in the same cathedral where generations of Grecos had married. Claire in a simple white dress, Antonio in a black suit, and Sophia between them as flower girl, proudly showing everyone her birthmark. No longer a secret, but a symbol of family, truth, and belonging. As they exchanged vows, Claire looked into Antonio's eyes and saw not a monster, but a man who had learned to love. And Antonio looked back at the woman who saved him twice, once with her courage, once with her heart, and knew he had finally found what he'd been searching for all along. Not just the woman from that night, but home. Sophia tugged on both their hands during the ceremony, whispering loudly enough for the front rows to hear. Does this mean I finally get to tell kids at school that my daddy's important? Laughter rippled through the cathedral. Antonio knelt down to Sophia's level. You can tell them your daddy's lucky because he has you and your mama, and that's the most important thing in the world. The reception was a strange mix of worlds. Mafia bosses dancing with Claire's old diner coworkers, Rosa teaching Sophia's school friends Italian curse words when no one was looking, and Antonio's captain serving cake like gentlemen instead of soldiers. Late in the evening, as Claire and Antonio swayed to slow music, she whispered, "Do you ever think about how different everything would be if I hadn't worked that night? If I'd walked past you bleeding out? If I'd been too scared to help?" "I think about it all the time," Antonio murmured. "And then I remember that fate is a funny thing. Some people call it coincidence. My grandmother calls it destiny. I just call it the luckiest night of my life, even if it took me 6 years to figure that out." "And Isabel?" Claire asked because she couldn't help wondering. "Last I heard, she was working in a laundromat in Jersey, alone, broke. Exactly what she feared most." Antonio's voice held no satisfaction, only finality. "She made her choices. Now she lives with them." "Do you think I should reach out? Try to—" "No," Antonio said firmly but gently. "Some bridges are burned for a reason. You've extended enough grace for one lifetime. Now you focus on the family you've built, not the one that betrayed you." As the night wound down and guests began departing, Rosa gathered Claire, Antonio, and Sophia for a private moment. "I want to give you something," she said, reaching into her purse. She pulled out an antique locket, gold and delicate. "This belonged to my mother, who wore it through 2 wars and 5 children. Inside are photos of the family, all of us, past and present. I wore it when I married Antonio's grandfather, and now—" She placed it in Claire's hands. "Now it belongs to you, the woman who brought truth back to this family, the woman who gave us Sophia. Wear it and know you are Greco. Truly. Completely." Claire opened the locket. On one side was a photo of a young Rosa. On the other, freshly added, was a photo of Sophia. "Rosa, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll protect this family as fiercely as you protected my grandson and great-granddaughter. Say you'll stand strong when the world tries to break you. Say you'll remember that Greco women are made of steel covered in silk. We bend, but we never break." "I promise," Claire whispered. Sophia, watching this exchange with solemn eyes, suddenly hugged her great-grandmother tight. "I love you, Nonna Rosa, even though you're scary sometimes." Rosa laughed, a sound like bells. "Good. A little fear keeps you sharp, Piccola. Remember that." That night, after Sophia was tucked into bed in her new room, she'd officially moved into the main house, declaring the guest house too far from Papa. Claire and Antonio stood at their bedroom window, looking out over the estate. "Are you happy?" Antonio asked quietly. Claire considered the question. 6 months ago, she was working 3 jobs, hiding her daughter's identity, living in fear. Now she wore designer clothes, had a family name that commanded respect, and married into a world she never imagined entering. Was she happy? "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Every day I worry about the danger. Every day I wonder if I made the right choice. Every day I question if I'm strong enough for this world. And every day I see Sophia running to you with new words in Italian. I see her drawing pictures of our family, all of us together. I see you becoming the father she always deserved, and I think, yes, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, despite everything, I'm happy." Antonio pulled her close. "Good, because you're stuck with us now. No returns, no exchanges." Claire laughed. "What a terrible policy." They stood there in the darkness, 2 people who had found each other in the worst circumstances and built something beautiful from the wreckage. The birthmark that brought them together was now Sophia's favorite thing about herself. The sister who betrayed Claire was now a cautionary tale. And the mafia boss who terrified New York was now a man who did funny voices during story time. Life, Claire thought, was strange. But maybe strange was exactly what they needed. If this story made your heart feel something, drop a comment and tell me what part hit the hardest. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories just like this one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. You never know who it might reach. Come back for more because the next story might just break your heart, give you chills, or might make you question everything you thought you knew about justice. You don't want to miss it.